Hi guys, welcome back to Into the Light, a Different Life Story, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stefan Neff. First of all, housekeeping, press that subscribe button and tell your friends about this show because we have got so many beautiful guests here, and it is such a humbling journey for me to meet all these beautiful people. And you would be silly to not subscribe, to not know who is coming next, because they're all coming quick and fast, because it is, I cannot just record beautiful interviews and then sit on them. Maybe by Christmas, we're going to bring you a message out. Bullshit. As I'm recording them, they are going out, and sometimes it's a bit of a flurry there. So if you get suddenly 3 interviews a week, just take it for what it is. It is a gift from me to you, because I believe that we can make this world a better place, one interview at a time. And therefore, who better to have on my show than Ed Squire? Ed Squire is a man who is a force of nature, full stop. I give you that right now. So buckle in. Make sure you're sitting comfortable and make sure that there's something behind you, because you're going to be blown away. Okay? So, and whilst I'm making now fun of that, and I'm making fun of our energy, that will soon transpire. But the problem is that we might very well trigger some thoughts in you, some emotions in you now that can be quite painful. So I give you a heads up there. There will be triggers there. There will be reflections that might come out of you that may be painful to you. So if that is the case, please go with it. But please understand, this is all part of you. All these emotions are part of you. So whatever comes out, it comes out. And I hope that we can show you that there is hope in every situation, that there is hope out there. And please, please, please hang in there, learn from our stories, and take it from there. Ed Squire, a man who is a fantastic dude, an all-round ball of energy. Welcome to my show.
Stefan, I'm really glad to be here. Thanks for having me. And we gave this is our second go around, because we've tried this a few weeks ago, and I had a plane land apparently out in a field over here that took down several city blocks, and everything just went dead all of a sudden. So I'm glad that we've got power, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, let's see how long that lasts.
Yeah.
How many more things drop out of the sky in your area?
Yes.
Now, a plane falling out of the sky is luckily quite a rare thing. Yet yes. What we are talking about today is unfortunately not rare at all. On the contrary, it's a huge thing. And what we are talking is about child sexual abuse. It is absolutely maddening when you actually truly speak to survivors about the incidents of child sexual abuse that is out there. You have lived that. And the problem is that so many survivors are quiet and do not speak up. Do you know any real figures out there of child sexual abuse?
Well, they say, and it's hard to get the real numbers, depending on the reports that you read. It's really difficult. They say, 1 in 6 women and 1 in 6 boys, and 1 in 6 boys, and that is a global statistic. There's an organization out there actually called 1in6.org, and they have a ton of great data in there. And the reality is when it comes to men, especially, the amount of shame that is associated with that is what prevents men from dealing with it, and it prevents men from acknowledging it. And we think, like I did for many years, I'm okay, right? Because if there's something wrong, we men want to fix it, right? And that's what I tried to do for many years. And I really thought I was okay until I saw just manifestations of severe dysfunctions not only, they weren't suddenly taking place. I just couldn't believe that they were in my life all the way along. But I was finally able to see them. And I had to deal with it. For me, it was a matter of life or death. So it was a pretty dramatic story.
And I think when you think about the sheer fact that abuse happens at a child's age, where really all these emotions of shame and guilt, etc., are formed, and they're laid down so deeply inside your brain. No surprise that it often it becomes an insurmountable task for survivors to speak out. For you, that was pretty much the same. When did you decide to tackle that issue in your own life?
Well, I suppose I thought I had chosen to deal with it many, many years ago. I started, I became a Christian when I was 13, and I believed in God, and I went to a Bible study. Now, when I was 13, all of the abuse was already over, and there were, I was sexually abused from age 4 until 10 by 3 different men, and I'm happy to talk about that too. But if we do, I knew that it had affected me. By the time I, got out of high school, I knew that I needed help. So I would always ask God to, help me, right? Heal my heart, heal me, and fix me up. And because I was not afraid to deal with it, I talked about it. It wasn't like I held this secret in for years. I thought that, I think that's very important. It's very important that we talk about it, recognize it, acknowledge it. And those are the steps that begin the healing process. I was just unaware of what was really needed to really get healed. It goes beyond talking about it, recognizing it, accepting it. You really need to understand what are the psychological effects that happen to you from a physiological standpoint when you're a young child, because it literally has an impact on your brain and your neurological growth, and it affects you as you mature and grow older. And so those effects carried on with me through decades. But the real decision to deal with it was when, sadly, I'd lost my marriage, and that was in 2009. I was married for 13 years, and I had a high-paying job that involved a lot of travel, and I traveled throughout the United States, Canada, and Europe, consulting for Fortune 500 companies, and my identity was wrapped up in that. I loved telling people that's what I did and how much money I made, and I was all of that. And then so what ended up happening was I just slowly lost my ability to concentrate on my job. And I began drinking and taking prescription medications when I got off work, just to, I didn't know what the process was, but I was numbing the pain. I was just numbing, I wouldn't even say numbing the pain of the abuse, but just numbing the pain of my life falling apart is what it was. Thinking that, hey, I've dealt with it, but, hey, I'm having a midlife crisis. Any man would. I've lost my marriage. I've been working hard. I need a break. It's not the sexual abuse. It's just, this happens to everybody at varying degrees. So again, I thought I was okay thing, it wasn't my past. And come to find out, it was very, very much my past that was affecting everything. And so that was August 24th, 2012. When I always define it as my dark night of the soul. And I think people understand what that means. And for me, I had to hit rock bottom. And then when I did, I found out there were layers to the bottom, and I bounced around the bottom for quite some time before I figured out, yep, this is definitely the bottom. And I cannot hang on anymore. I cannot make everything look okay. And I am coming apart at the seams.
Oh, fantastic.
2012.
Isn't it? From now and then, you actually have to bounce a bit around down there. And
yeah, you really do. You do. It's like, it's really bad. No, it can get worse. Yeah.
It's what I love to hear there is indeed your emphasis on, I thought I had dealt with that. And that is so important. You think you acknowledge it, and by just acknowledging it, and maybe even talking about it, that's it, done, dusted, tick. What we do not take into account is that the whole belief system has been skewed and has been changed. And because of that belief system, those kind of, I'm not good enough, there are so many weird, distorted beliefs that we lay down at such an early stage that we don't even know, that we are not even aware of.
No, it's so subtle. It's so subtle. And you think it's normal. You rationalize it. You think this is, and the older you get, you realize that, hey, everybody's like this to some degree, and it's true to some degree. But when you're at the point of where, looking back and I finally see it now, it was that everything I did was to get attention. Exactly. To get people to like me. I wanted people to like me. When you get out of school, you're supposed to go to college and you're supposed to have a plan for your life. I didn't have one. I wanted sex, drugs, and rock and roll pretty much when I got out of high school, because that's what I did in high school. I wanted to have fun and party. And I knew I needed to get my act together and get a job, maybe go to college. I don't know. But after 3 years of, not having a plan, I just burned out. I thought, geez, I need to do something with my life, right? What am I going to do? And, all my friends by that time, they're well into college and, there's nobody around. And so I did go to college and had absolutely no clue what I wanted to do. I had no dreams, no desires, and I don't at that time, they didn't pay a lot for skateboarding, and that wasn't in the Olympics. And I was into barefoot water skiing, and, I was a nationally ranked barefoot water skier, as a matter of fact. And I went to college, and after college, I went to South Florida, and I went barefoot water skiing with the world champion for a couple of years, because I just did whatever felt good at the time, whatever I wanted to do. And I think that's okay. I think that's a good thing in life, to just follow your dreams and your passions. But at some point, you need to have a plan and get your act together, so to speak. And I flew by the seat of my pants. And I think, being ADHD on top of the trauma makes you someone who, instead of ready, aim, fire, I was fire, ready, aim. So I would act first, think about the consequences later. And I thought that was okay, because I accomplished a lot of things in life that I think the average person, what is the average person? I don't like using terms like that. That many people don't experience, because you're unafraid, but you still suffer the consequences. I think a lot of times my friends that I grew up with, I live in Denver, Colorado, but I grew up in northwestern British Columbia, Canada, and I grew up on a lake in a small town. And when I went back to visit, when I was in my 30s and 40s, people were like, how did you get the opportunity to live in Florida and become this big time consultant, making all this money, and I would love to do what you're doing. But the reality was, what I didn't have that they had was, I had all these amazing experiences, right? I've done amazing things and experienced amazing things, but I didn't have community. I didn't have friends to go and have a barbecue with. I didn't have children. I didn't have a solid base underneath me, and I didn't have a house that I had lived in for 10 or 15 years, and I didn't have nothing was firm in my life, and that's a lot to sacrifice for a fun lifestyle, but no regrets, right?
Also, think where that came from. You had to learn to survive at a very, very, very early stage. So you learned to become selfish. You learned to think about only one thing, that is your survival. So whatever you had to take, whatever do, etc., to actually get through that moment, get through that day, that evening, whatever it was, you learned that it's okay to do that. And therefore, that filters through. That's again this kind of core belief that you become this selfish person, and it doesn't matter if you walk over the dreams of other people or you destroy the happiness of others just to get that one moment that finally makes you forget your pain. Because what you were searching for, not without knowing it, was that acceleration, that freedom, that dopamine high.
That's right.
Please, when you are on barefoot on the water going at 30, 40 Ks or miles an hour even.
More than that.
Yeah, exactly.
I used to jumping out of trees and off of bridges and all these crazy things.
And that is the adrenaline. That is the dopamine.
That's right.
That makes you feel alive. Suddenly there is that alive, and it's so addictive to you are escaping your reality. You are living this fast paced, bang, 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 look at me. And you get self-validation. You get all those kind of things.
That's right.
You can see exactly where it all came from, and you can see the driving factor behind it. You didn't want to slow down. You didn't want to actually think.
No.
Perceive.
No. And I had no idea. And that's an interesting point that you just made. I had no idea. I had no idea what it meant to just to stop and to just think. I appreciate how before we started the show, you take a moment to just be silent. And before I got ready for this, I took time. I took an hour to just really do nothing, right? Just to empty myself, to be in the moment, to look forward to this episode. I have a super busy day today. I have 2 more podcasts. I didn't manage my time very well for today, but there's good breaks in between. But it's important to take time to just be still. And I couldn't believe that for decades I never did that because you're so afraid of your thoughts.
Bingo.
So afraid of your thoughts.
Bingo.
And it's so busy in there.
And that's what you said. You said it yourself. I identified myself as that corporate person, the person who was out there, the successful person. That was exactly me. If you asked me 10 years ago, okay, who are you? Oh, I'm a pain physician. I run big pain clinics here, there, and everywhere. No, who are you? Well, I just told you. I could not define myself.
No,
as anything
that's a tough question.
But the job, isn't it? Nowadays, a totally different story. But that is where true recovery happens, that you actually truly find yourself. And you might find an empty shell. And that's actually quite cool because then you have got an empty canvas on which you can start painting. Yeah.
That's what I found. As a matter of fact, when I ended up having to go, I had to go on take a leave of absence from work. And I ended up actually going on disability for mental health, for post-traumatic stress disorder and depression and anxiety. And what I used to do during that time was get up very early in the morning and go to a coffee shop because I couldn't. I didn't sleep well, and I didn't like the idea of waking up and just being alone because everything was so traumatic in my head. I'm on disability. I was so manic that I did my days basically consisted of getting up, going to coffee shops early in the morning, and then just managing through my day. But I'll never forget after I went through. You can be on disability for 6 months. And then after that, you get terminated from your job. And after 6 months, I was a big time analyst and a strategic consultant for these companies. And so when I found out I was diagnosed with all these things, I'm like, okay, well, let's fix it. Well, what is PTSD? What is bipolar? What is anxiety? What is depression? What are you going to do? Oh, okay, you need to meditate. You need to do this, you need this, eat right, get a good diet. Well, it's not like that. You can't just tick it off and say, I'm doing all these things because I want, and I also thought, well, it's just a midlife crisis more than anything, right? I do need time off. So after 6 months, none of my medical healthcare professionals would release me to go back to work. Not a single one of them. They said, you are not ready. And then the very first time I went to a coffee shop after I got terminated and I'm still on disability, I'll never forget the barista said to me, he said, so what do you do? And up until then, I told this fantastical story and it was the truth. It was my identity. I'm a high-end consultant. I work for Fortune 500 companies and global companies and make all this. I didn't tell people I made money. They just could tell because nobody does that without making a lot of money. That was who I was. And then the first time I went to a coffee shop and that wasn't there anymore, I thought, I can't tell them that anymore because that's gone. And I stood there and I wish I had it on camera because when he said that to me, it just suddenly hit me. I don't do anything, right?
Exactly.
I do nothing. I'm on disability. Exactly. I go to coffee shops and I manage through the day and I go to bed and I wake up and I go to a coffee shop. And so I looked at him and I said, I said, I don't do anything actually. Because I just was, I'm 6 months into recovery. And so I'm thinking I'm honest now. Now I don't lie anymore. I tell the truth. I want to be honest. Yes. I said, I'm thinking, what do? I don't do anything. Like I don't have any hobbies. And he looked at me, he said, well, are you retired? And I thought, well, I'm thinking, well, that's a good question. And I said, no. And he could tell I was thinking about that. And then he said, well, you weren't in the service, like, were you, in the service? And I said, no. He said, well, he just looked at me and he said, well, that must be nice. I mean, think about it. I do think about it now. You bet that's nice. Who wouldn't want to do nothing? And I looked at him and I thought to myself, I said, yeah, it is nice because I thought, it is nice. What I'm doing is I'm looking after myself. I'm learning that it's okay to do nothing, to be nothing, to start from, I was at the very beginning of this identity thing and understanding my identity. And, my nonprofit, MeToo, WhatNow, the tagline is find yourself, live yourself, give yourself. And the very first step is understanding your identity, locating yourself and understanding who you are. And I'm not defined by what I do anymore. I'm not defined by my nonprofit. I'm not defined by my videography. I'm not defined by all the things I do. I can answer that question any way I want. What do I do? Well, I drink coffee. So what do? I sit. I feed squirrels. I ski. I whatever comes to my mind. I love humanity. I'm a humanitarian, person who loves people. That's what I do. What do you do? I love to return the question, right, and ask them what they do because your job does not define you.
Bingo, absolute bingo. But that was at times actually quite scary for me. It was scary to realize that. It was scary to lose yourself because yes. I didn't know what was to come. I didn't know.
No, it was petrifying, Stefan. I mean, it really was. I mean, it was enlightening, learning to relax and, be okay with the process, but it was terrifying, not knowing who you are. And trying, working towards redefining that. And then, okay, wow, trauma has affected me in a big, big way. And 6 months of, it was not enough to get over it. Not by a long shot.
Isn't it? Yeah. And you were lucky because ultimately there was money around. Your insurance was paying. In many patients, being a doctor, I automatically say patients. Many other folks out there don't have that. They were scraping by as they went prior to their breakdown, and now they're really, truly down and out. So I guess both of us.
Stefan, they end up in prison, right? In jail. Yeah. They end up in on the streets. And I've thought many times that could have been me, and that could be me. That could be anybody. You don't know what's going to happen in life. Correct. Anything can change. And we need to be prepared. And it's not an easy thing for the unexpected. And to be so grateful in the midst of your trials like that for what you do have. There's so many things I didn't have, but you know what? There were so many things I did have. Many, many things.
So true. So true. That was your physical ability, your physical health, the sheer fact that you were actually walking, that you're able to do things without disability, and a myriad of things, but we can't see that. It's the same.
I mean, even wake up in the morning and just being grateful that I can breathe, because there's no guarantee you're going to even wake up in the morning.
Exactly.
There's no guarantee. In the news every day, I read about people that suddenly passed away, and for whatever the reason it may be, but they weren't expecting. Nobody expects to. You don't know when you're going to die. So to live in the moment, as they say. And actually on my Facebook, I posted today, I said, enjoy your day because it's never coming back.
So true. So true. So true. So many wasted opportunities with hindsight, yet when you are consumed by your trauma, when you are driven to run away, when you're driven to drown your feelings, your emotions, when you try to escape reality, you don't see that. It is
you can't.
So therefore, that's so important that we acknowledge that this is part of our journey. There will be a part of running away, and the question is, how long do you want to do that?
That's right.
It's normal that you want to do, guys. I mean, you want to escape trauma. That's what we do. That's what we want to do as humans. That's normal. Yeah. So whatever you have been doing, may that be sex, may that be alcohol, may that be drugs, may that be sugar, whatever you have been doing.
Maybe it's even work. Maybe it's shopping. It can be anything that gives you that brief moment of escape from what you consider to be your reality. And you know what? I encourage survivors that's okay. It's okay. Don't think that all of a sudden you have to stop drinking or stop whatever that behavior is, because number one is you're not going to be able to. But understand that that's a part of the process. When you recognize now that, hey, what I'm doing is not good for me, then give yourself a gold star. You didn't recognize that before. And then the next thing is, okay, what do I do about it? Well, now we read, we maybe go to therapy. We may listen to podcasts. We look at a YouTube. We start to gain information. We maybe talk to people. We understand, wow, this is going to take time. And it's so important not to beat yourself up in the process, and to learn to be kind to yourself and know that you're going to be okay. Right? You are going to heal, but you need to step into this one step at a time and be okay with that. And that is a hard thing to do, man. It's hard. That's why I love talking to survivors, whether they're male or female, because many people reach out to me, but especially men who, I've just recently had a man just reach out to me, and he was just, his wife said I should, right? Because a man is not going to go, oh, look, if there's a male survivor of childhood sexual abuse, I'm going to reach out, right? His wife was noticing drinking a little more than he used to, not really present with the kids, and their marriage was beginning to have problems. She suggested that maybe his abusive past and his family might be affecting him. And he was like, I'm okay. But he reached out to me because his wife said to do that. And they had a good marriage, so he obeyed. And after a few conversations, he realized, and actually he began to cry and weep on the phone and with me. And he was apologizing because it was his first time really telling somebody what really happened. And that's why it's so important to tell your story with somebody that you trust and feel safe with. And out it came, and he's crying. He goes, oh, I can't believe I'm crying. I said, it's okay. You should be. You need to. And I get it. I have shed many, many tears over this. And he felt hopeless and helpless and didn't see a way out. And I said, John, well, his name wasn't John, but I said, let's talk again. I'd love to talk to you again. So every other day for a few weeks we talked, and I ended up at the point, it was both him and his wife that were on the phone with me. It was like therapy. I'm not a therapist, but survivors, connecting with survivors is an extremely important process in the healing journey, just as important, in my opinion, as it is speaking to a therapist or a mental health care professional. You need both. There's a very important place for both of those to be in your life. And when I went to group men's therapy, I never in a million years thought that I would need that. And when I went once, and I was like, after that one time, I was like, you know what? Men's group therapy is very good. This is good. And I went for 2 years, and it's important. And, so, back to our point is recognizing that it's okay. Like I told him, I said, you're drinking too much, and yep, you need to stop. But I'm going to tell you, my friend, cut it back. Just start to, allow yourself some time and understand, what are your triggers? When are you wanting to drink? Why are you wanting to drink? Stop and think about that for a moment. What is in your head when you're doing that? Is it stress from work? Is it stress from your past? What is causing you to want to pick that up and get that numbness happening in your life? And this the whole process of slowing down in the moment, thinking, because we run, right? We are in fight or flight for years, and like you mentioned, we don't stop to think. But anyway, I'm kind of going on and on, but it's all part of the process, and we need to accept that and know that it's okay.
Indeed, it is okay to not be okay, and that's so important. So important. Yeah. It is. I did never allow myself that, because as a doctor, you're somehow not accepting that. Okay, today I'm not so good. I lost this patient. Yeah, bad time, bad luck. No, we are 100%. No, that's right. It happened. Shit happens. No, it doesn't work like that in doctors' terms. So therefore, my trauma in my youth caused me to be hypervigilant and caused me to be constantly expecting.
Yes, I was the same way. Hypervigilance is very common.
Isn't it? But that made me a good doctor. So did you think that some of the aspects of your trauma made you actually a good consultant, made you a good person in your job?
There is no question, because I was working with some of the biggest companies in the world, like Boeing, the Boeing Corporation, Sanofi Aventis Pharmaceuticals in Paris, and a company called Cita out of Geneva. They manage hardware and software assets for 90% of the airports around the world. And I mean, it was big stuff. And I mean, I'm working with the CIOs and the C-level and the V-level management. And I have to tell you, if you've ever seen the movie Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo DiCaprio, okay, so I didn't have any certifications, no industry standard certifications on process and and regulations and best practice, nothing. I could just do a really good interview. And as a matter of fact, this on the wall behind me is not a certificate from a diploma from education. When I got my first job in this space, my wife and I were so broke that they were coming to get the car. We were going to be evicted out of our place. We didn't have any money for food. And I had to get work. And so I had to find something that was within walking distance in case my car got taken away. So I applied for a job that was way out of my league, right? Way out of my league. And I got through the interview process and I got hired, and it was double the salary that I got paid when I moved from Canada just a couple of years ago. And I just thought, if they figure out I don't know what I'm doing, it's going to take them a few days at least. And they're going to have to pay me for the time that I'm there. So I was not afraid of being fired. I was not afraid of being found out, because I was just so desperate to pay the bills. And as it turned out, I kind of faked my way. And then the project manager, this is a great story. The project manager, who was also external like I was, she came to me because I was under her. She said, "Ed, I have to ask you a question. And don't take this personally, but have you ever done this? Like, have you ever done this type of work before?" Right? And so I knew, obviously, that she figured me out. Right. And I said, no, not specifically, but I've done, so I'm trying to explain this to her, right? Because I've done some work like this, but not at this level. If you cut my salary in half, that's where I would have been. And so she's like, okay, time out. I understand. Like, she's like, she figured it out. She goes, look, I need to succeed on this gig. Okay. And in order for me to succeed, you have to succeed. So here's what we're going to do. When you don't know something, I want you to come to me and I will help you. And I said, well, okay. Because I thought I was going to get fired. Right. And I said, okay. So she mentored me through 6 months on that gig. And it just so happened that, see, life is a wonderful thing. I think life is in our favor whether we recognize it or not. And at some point, if we embrace that, it'll look different for everybody. But I think there is happiness in this world for us in somewhere, and even if you don't know it. And so the CIO just happened to be the top CIO in the United States that year, and he was on the front cover of CIO magazine, and he happened to be the top CIO 3 out of the previous 5 years. I didn't know that when I got hired, but I thought, I'm going to get this guy to write me a letter of recommendation before I go. Excellent. That's what's on the wall back here.
Excellent.
And typically a letter of recommendation is 2 or 3 paragraphs. That's a full page of basically a description of how Jesus walked on the water and changed humanity for all eternity. I read this thing and I'm like, I didn't realize I was that good, or made it look like I was that good. So I used that to apply for the next job. And that job, it paid like 3 times that. So now I'm in 6 figures. And again, I didn't know what I was doing. And the same thing happened. My boss said, you ever done this before? And he said, look at, anything you don't know, come and ask me and I'll show you. And then after 2 years of being on site there, I became very good at what I was doing. And then away I went. So the idea, so to answer your question, right, that, I didn't have an education. I didn't plan on it. It was spur of the moment. It was reactionary, and it was out of desperation. And then it came crashing down. I did it for 15 years. And then because I really wasn't qualified, really, and I mean, I think I was through the work experience, but I just, like I said, when I started to lose my ability to think and focus, that's what happened. It was my trauma sneaking up on me. I think I would be very good at that job today. I'm very, very good. And I consult with people today and help them with their businesses. But mentally something was happening that I had no control over.
The problem is your body can only drive on adrenaline and on survival mode for a certain period of time until things get unhinged and you're losing it. You can't rev your car continuously, high revs, going. At some stage, the motor says, enough. Enough. Right, okay. Yeah. So exactly. So, and I think that's with us, and we don't understand that for such a long period of time. But for me, it is this interesting concept that PTSD can be actually a very good thing to a certain degree, and it is this I want to demonize PTSD, my trauma, etc. So our natural thoughts are, no, that is not good, and look what it has done to us. I must say that the reason that I'm so good in managing emergencies is because of my trauma, because of my vigilance, because of that. So there are actually good aspects. And again, that's where it boils down to. We always try to sort of think, okay, there's the trauma, let me just cut it out, and I want to bury that 6 feet under and nowhere to be seen again. I think that's wrong. However traumatic our trauma was to us, it made us who we were. Or who we are. It created the previous versions of us, and those versions were us. You cannot deny that, but you can let them you can remember them and think, okay, wow, that was then, but how far have I come? Therefore, the same question is maybe, if you had a time capsule, could you go, time machine, could you go, and you could go back, would you change things? And I think, no, I would not, with my set of trauma that I've gone through, because it made me actually the man I am nowadays. So I've come to terms with my trauma. Let me come back. We were talking a lot about the coping mechanisms, etc. But if I ask you the question, Ed, if you could go back, what would you change?
When you were just mentioning that, I had a grin on my face. I was smiling because on my YouTube channel, I have a clip where I'm telling my story in about 4 minutes, and he asked me that question, and I said no. I really thought about it, and I said no, because for the exact same reasons you just said that. Yeah. I said everything that's happened in my life has made me who I am today. Yeah. I'm making an impact in people's lives that I never would have had before. Who knows what would have happened if this didn't happen? There's one thing I know for sure is that when you go through deep levels of depression and anxiety and just deep, dark emotions, I've developed a greater appreciation for my happy moments and joyful moments. And to how do you know what's really happy unless you've been really, really sad? And, when you feel like your soul has been ripped out of your very being, because that's what happens from childhood sexual abuse, specifically sexual abuse. You literally, in my opinion, get your identity sucked right out of you, and you don't know who you are. And we constantly become codependent, trying to be something for everybody, trying to win everybody's approval. And I said, no, I wouldn't, because also the reality is you can't go back and change it. There's no such thing. And so, no, I wouldn't go back, because I really, really do love who I am today. Just the kind of man that I've become is not the kind of man I would have become before. Not a chance. And I love it. So no, I wouldn't.
When you say the man I've become, when I think back at who I was trying to be a man, I wasn't a man.
No.
A man has integrity, has humility, has certain virtues that were so foreign for me. I mean, it is, for me, I did not have childhood sexual abuse, maybe some emotional abuse, but I think that was more signs of the time, so to speak. I think for me, nevertheless, the people pleasing was, like for you, it was a key ingredient. Seeking validation, seeking approval somehow in any way, shape, or color. Yeah. One of the ways that I did that was by making new sexual relationships and having massive love things happening, creating the most beautiful world for a girl for a month or two, and then dropping her like a hot potato when things got serious, or when actually things were. So my sexual life was more butterfly inseminating flowers than anything serious.
Well, because you don't know what love is, and you don't know what intimacy is. One of my girlfriends, she said to me, "You have no clue how to be intimate." And I thought, "You got to be kidding me." I thought, I am so good at sex. Isn't that what intimate? I mean, I'm thinking this in my mind, right? I understand what a woman is looking for. I can perform sexually. What are you talking about? I don't know how to be intimate. But it has absolutely zero to do with sex at all whatsoever. This is intimacy right now, what you and I are doing. This is what being intimate is, right? Is connecting on a deep and vulnerable and genuine level. And that has nothing to do with sex. Your sex life would I think be greatly enhanced by, I don't know anymore because I'm now single. But, should the day come, I look forward to it because it would be a completely different experience. It's not going to be me trying to perform or me trying to satisfy myself or her. It's oh my gosh, to be in love with someone now. So this is not a paid advertisement, but I am single and I don't have any children. No, I'll play with you, but it would be a different thing, right? Intimacy is the great equalizer, if you want to call it that, in relationships. It's the real true make or break. That's the secret sauce. And I think men have a hard time with that.
So for those women who want to stop the interview right now, his contact details are down there in the YouTube channel description. And so just go for it. That's fine. You can listen to the rest of the interview later. Say hello first. And I wish it to you. And there is absolutely no doubt that Mrs. Right will turn up, or Mr. Right, or whoever right. So
whatever your right is.
That's
absolutely,
right.
Yeah.
But it's again, if you think about it, when you're in the middle of trauma, you're hopeless and helpless, and you do not believe that there is a way out. Yet there is. There always is. Now, we two are lucky because we have actually learned that the hard way, or maybe the good way, however, which way
it's
you look at it.
It's always the hard way. There is no easy way, right?
Should you?
There isn't.
But I think there will be something happening around the next corner of your path, and it will be I'm looking forward to the next interview with you down the line to actually see okay, where are we now, what happened because
I'm excited. Life excites me now.
Exactly. But what you are describing there is actually a sex life. How does that work? When you've been sexually abused as a child, how can you have sex without being triggered? How does that work?
Yeah, that's, I wish I had a really good answer for that. I think, if that ever does happen for me, I think as much as I like to say I get it, I'm healed, and I'm in the moment, and I understand intimacy, and I understand what a good man would do and all these things. What would it be like to actually, be in a healthy relationship and have sex? I can't imagine it not. I think there will be problems, right? And that's okay, and I understand that, right? I'm used to knowing that when the unknown in my journey, and there's reasons why for the triggers, so I will sort through it. And whoever I'm with will understand this before they ever date me, right? They're going to know my story. I mean, it's all over the internet. I have a documentary coming out, so but the reality is it's going to take some work. I understand that it's going to take some work because the past are going to be there. But I have to say that sexual addiction became a big part of my life very, very early, before I even hit the double digits, like before I was even 10 years old. So to be, I've gone back through all, in my therapy to just think about these things and how they contributed to my behaviors in my adult life, and to be awoken sexually at age 4. I remember, I really do remember it very clearly. And I remember my thoughts being thoughts of bewilderment, not understanding the physiological things that were happening in my brain and in my body, and the pleasure that I was getting from it, and just not you don't understand. You don't know what sex is. I'm 4 years old, and so and then that happens, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. And then it happens with the next door neighbor. And then it happens with a grade 4 and 5 teacher. Well, by the time you get grade 4 and 5, or even, 7 and 8, I knew there was something wrong, but you're already messed up. And you're okay for some bizarre reason with these things happening. So I really relate to you when it comes to your sexual experiences. Because, with an addiction, it would, whether it be pornography or going to massage parlors or, sadly hiring, even paying for sex, like prostitutes and things like that. And that when that becomes an addiction, and you continuously push the boundaries of your morals, and then you start to live in this dark place, what I call in a booth in the back in the corner in the dark that nobody knows except for you. And we all have that in our lives to some degree, but when it's really morally a bankrupt place that you suffer with, and I'm a Christian, and I remember being a leader in my church in my late teens and early 20s, and being involved in these things, and having this massive self-loathing in myself that I carried for decades as I went through it. And the only way I could numb that self-loathing was with more sex. And so then when you get into therapy and understanding what's going on, you realize it's an addiction. And it's an addiction that has the same cycles as a heroin addict or an alcoholic, where you are triggered and then you act out and then you soothe and then you come back around again, and you learn to understand. Okay, there's a physical aspect to recovering from this. There's a mental aspect to recovering from this, and I thank God, and I really mean that an addiction is an addiction. I will always be a sex addict. And I'm not afraid to say that, because, it's out in the open, and I understand my triggers. It's like any other addiction. I need to manage my lifestyle. I need to manage what I look at, what I see, what I listen to. And, it has affected me. It has affected me until the day I die. But again, you know what? I don't regret that. That's, when you ask me, would I change anything? That's a big part of wanting to change something. You would think, well, wouldn't you want to change that? Well, of course you would. Of course you would. But again, working through that addiction has helped me to become the man that I am. It has helped me to be able to speak out, and I love to be on platforms like this where we can talk about this, because I can't wait to promote this when we're done, because men need to hear this, and wives need to hear this, and tell their husbands to hear this. That wouldn't happen to be able to help other men in this situation. Because I got to tell you, men don't like being in that situation. Not an addict of anything doesn't like to sit in that throughout their lives. You're self-loathing. Nobody enjoys that. Right? You get the temporary high from whatever the dopamine is that you flood into your brain from whatever your addiction is, but you don't. At the end of the day, you don't like it. You don't like yourself, and you wish you weren't doing it. It's great to talk about. And I appreciate you asking me that.
It is so important, because we know that often if there's physical abuse, then children act out and become bullies themselves. And so therefore it was the logical question with regards to what happens to your sexuality when you get abused. I think there is a very different aspect, though, is we become such addicts towards people pleasing. And if you apply that to your sexuality, that makes you damn good in bed, because you focus on your partner, but you don't focus for intimacy reasons. You focus on approval, so to speak. It is, right. How was my rating? Can I have a 7.8, 7.9, 8.0? And it is actually fucked up the moment I think about it like that. But I actually have to admit, this must have been the bigger part of my teens, tweens, those kind of younger years, those kind of wild, the sex, the drugs, the rock and roll. The sex was actually more trying to find my identity, trying to find approval.
Yes. And did you feel this way? For me, it was like when a woman was attracted to me and I performed good in bed, I just had such a sense of well-being, in a sense. I mean, I think any man would, we feel, but that was the only thing that gave me my self-worth. Correct. Right. And if I couldn't attract another woman, then what is wrong with me? Right. Correct. I need to be able to attract a woman. And and I think it's important for me to say too, is that this escalated throughout my life. Like it just every decade it got worse and worse. And when I got married at age 30, I married a very beautiful woman. She was an ex-model. She was a runner-up in national beauty competition, just absolutely gorgeous. And I thought that someone that beautiful would satisfy me and I'd be okay and all these addictions would stop. And it didn't. And when we divorced and when I was making that kind of money, it was like giving a heroin addict a great big bag of heroin and whatever you use to get that in you. And I went wild, right? And it was worse. And so I'm talking from age like 30, like 39 to 45, I just was out of control in that area. And that's really what really brought me to crash, is that I couldn't sustain that kind of really self-harm is what it was, mental and psychological self-harm. At some point, a coke addict or heroin addict is just gonna die from feeding themselves. And I believe the same is exactly what I was experiencing. So it was very, very serious. So my point that I wanted to make for other men to hear was that I cheated on my wife every year that we were married. And I never brought this up in counseling when we were trying to save our marriage. I never brought this up. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. I've kept this under wraps. Mm-hmm. It's like what a good addict does. They hide it, right? And there are many other reasons for why we divorced. That wasn't the only reason. I mean, I honestly didn't think it was affecting my marriage. Unbelievable. I did not think it was affecting my marriage. Did not think it was affecting relationships because I had it under control. That's why nobody knew. You wouldn't know the difference now with the person you're talking to or that person that was doing it back then. You understand? I was so good at it. I had no idea that I was actually impacting a stranger that I'd have an interaction with, because you would never, if you're not a genuine, open, and vulnerable person, you're denying even a stranger that you have an interaction with a hello. There's something about you. You don't want them to know you have this big secret. And so after we divorced, I mean, I couldn't talk about this on your show without having talked to my ex-wife about this first, because it wouldn't be fair to her. And so after we got divorced, we sat down and I told her everything, and I asked her to forgive me, and she did. And I like to, when I get the opportunity to mention that, I think it's very important, because I think that a lot of men hide these secrets. And, if you do talk to your wife about it and you're having marital problems, it could very well end your marriage, but it may not. You don't know. But being truthful and coming clean is absolutely imperative, and you can't get around it. I could not advocate. I could not do what I'm doing right now if I couldn't talk about this openly, but appropriately in the right places and times like this. I'm not ashamed if she would hear or see our conversation. I would be sad, of course, because I'm not proud of what I did, but I am proud of the fact that I've come out of it. And the reality is, she is a very beautiful woman, and it had nothing to do with her. An addict has nothing to do with anybody else but themselves. That's the reality. And she didn't understand that, and I understand that she didn't understand that too. And it's regretful, yes, but again, would I change it? Yeah, I really wish. We don't like hurting people, right? Addicts, hurting people hurt people. We've heard that saying before, and that's part of the wake that follows us, the destruction in our lives. And I wish I could change those kinds of things, but at the end of the day, you can't, you won't. So you might as well embrace it and think of the good things that have come out of it, like this conversation we're having right now.
And that's so important, isn't it? It is. I think that is the biggest message I would send back to my younger me, is to actually accept it's okay that you're hurting. It's okay to feel the pain. You don't need to run away.
Yes.
And it is, but what intrigues me a little bit is that we probably had quite a different upbringing. I was taught by my stepfather that for him, the ideal man would be sort of a film star who is debonair and has a drink in his hand and lays as many women as he can. Sort of James Bond kind of style.
Yeah, Dean Martin. I don't know.
That's right.
I don't want to
Tony.
stigmatize them, but
that's right. Tony Curtis. All these kind of that was the ideal for my stepfather, and that is how he brought me up. It's okay. The more sexual conquests you have, the better it is. So to a certain degree, I could excuse my behavior from that part of my upbringing. Now, for you, there was God, there was Christian, there was youth leader at church. How did that gel? Yeah, so you didn't have that yet. Here was that kind of sex addiction that we both showed signs of and lived. And it was there. So you cannot say, this sex addiction that came because of upbringing or because of this, because of that. It is.
It's a very good point. It's a very good point.
So
sorry.
No, it's good. And it's so important for you guys to realize it is sometimes we try to put things into nice little boxes and say, look at his life. No surprise that he's an addict. Yeah. Look at her. No surprise with that story. I would be an addict too. It doesn't actually work like that. It doesn't actually work like that, because your addiction will come out in weird and wonderful ways. And it doesn't matter.
Yes, it will. You can't hide it forever. You can't. You can't. And Steph, go ahead.
No, ladies first.
Yes, thank you. I was going to say, I have a TikTok I'm going to make here pretty quick, and there's a long brunette wig I'm going to be wearing, and I'm going to the mall to get a makeup artist to make me look like a woman. So I'll have to share that with you when I get that done.
Yes, please.
But for many, many years, and it's a hard thing to work through in recovery, is that I believe there's a very strong likelihood that the reason why I went the way I did was because of what happened to me. I was raised well, other than getting sexually abused. My sister turned out to be perfect. I'm like, how did you turn out to be so perfect? Like, she's never been drunk. She's never done this. Never. She goes, oh, yes, I've been drunk. I'm like, well, describe drunk to me. She's trying to describe the sensation. I said, that's not drunk. Drunk is when you wake up with your nose in a corner of somebody's house and you don't know whose house it is. And you're a little bit lost and befuddled when you wake up because you don't know how you got there. That's drunk. But, I believe there's no question that my entire life unfolded the way it did because of the trauma that I suffered. But at some point, I had to stop. And it was through men's group therapy that I realized that everything that I was doing in my life now and as an adult, it was my choice. I was choosing to do these things. I had to get to the place where I could no longer say, well, it's because of these things that happened. It's because of this, yes, you know what? You betcha. It is because of those things. But every moment in the future, starting right now, you can choose to not let it affect you. Now, there's going to be a working out in that, but you can choose to not let that be something that affects your future in a negative way. You have to choose to take responsibility for your actions. And that was, I think, the hardest thing. And I think the hardest thing for any survivor or addict to come to the place where they go and they realize that they have responsibility and the ability to make choices. And at some point, you can't blame your past anymore.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. And that's exactly it, isn't it? Indeed, right. And that's where, that is actually probably the hardest bit to accept.
I think so too.
And it was for me. The resentment, the anger, all that. Look what they did to me.
That's right.
Now I'll drink a whole bottle of vodka and I show them.
Go right ahead.
Exactly.
Are you going to do that tomorrow?
Yeah, that's right.
Again? You're going to keep doing it?
Exactly. And that's I think that was the hard thing for me too. That was the hardest thing, actually, to get rid of, to accept what has happened in the past, put it to bed, to accept the things we cannot change. Now, that was
That's
a skill
right.
I had never learned up until rehab. And I must say that I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah.
For that insight. If there's one insight ever, then it was that insight. Not my circus, not my monkeys. Or can I do something about it now? No. Okay, then that's it. Then I cannot now beat myself up, take the whip out and whip myself, because it either was what it was, or it is. I can only right now make choices and make a choice to live a different way.
Yeah.
To no doubt I will have today, throughout the day, I will have flashbacks when I treated a woman bad, or when I will see tears in women's eyes when I drop them like hot potatoes and said, okay, that's it, bye. I will have a lot of flashbacks of that, and it will not be a good day from that aspect point of view. But I will make it a good day, because I will decide, I will acknowledge the emotions that will come over me. I will not respond to them. I will not react to them. And I think that's the beautiful thing. I know today there will be quite a few micro traumas, but I do already now decide that I will respond to them by acknowledging them, but by doing good things, by looking after myself, by being kind to other people, by being grateful for those things that I do have. There are so many things that you will learn in recovery, and that you learn to appreciate as new coping mechanisms, that are so much more beautiful than the way I acted out and committed suicide in installments in the past.
Yeah.
And so no, it
And
is.
Stefan, that's a to get to that place, it's important to recognize that it's a learned skill set to get to what you just described. It doesn't just happen, right? So when how do you get past, really the anger about what had happened to you, and just say, well, just all of a sudden, do I just forget that? I just put those emotions behind me. And I'll never forget one time when I was going through, I've been through many different therapists over the years, either because I moved or because they moved on or they didn't work or whatever. But one therapist I had, he was a young guy. He was like half my age. And I thought to myself, what is this guy going to know? What life experience does he have? Right. And that may have been the case. It may have been the case, but it wasn't. And so he was asking me about my pornography addiction. And he's asking specifically what I like to watch and this and that. And I'm like, he was really pissing me off with his questions, right? Like, I didn't respect him as a therapist. I thought, well, like, why are you asking me these things? And so I didn't ask him that, but I was just getting irritated. And he said to me, you seem to be a very angry person. I said, fucking right, I'm angry. I'm angry at a lot of things. I said, to be honest with you, I don't know what to do about it. And right now I'm feeling that way right now. Do you need to go into all these details and yabba dabba do and everything? And he said, you know what? He said, I don't know how you cannot be angry. He says, you know what you need to do? He says, you just have not been angry enough. He said, if I were you, he said, I would feel like I have been effing ripped off in my life. I would feel like I was so ripped off. And he says, you have been. He says, have you ever really allowed yourself to be really angry about that? Because I'd be pissed off, and I don't know for how long. He said, but you know what you need to do is you need to allow yourself to be angry as you want and as long as you want. Because at some point, you have to stop being angry. You have to allow yourself to just, if you need to go beat something, break something, throw something, do it safely, do it privately, but allow yourself to be as angry as you want, because you know what? You have been so screwed in life. You should be angry. But when it's over, then you can move on. into into a new space. And I allowed myself to do that after that. I allowed myself to go, you know what? I haven't. Well, it really answered the question as to why I was so angry. And I've always felt that way. And the reality is I have been ripped off in life, but I've also been giving gifts and blessings and opportunities in life that otherwise never would have come as well. And so I think it's important for, people listening to this and watching this to, it's nice to say, I recognize, I have take responsibility for my own choices. I recognize that the past is in the past, but you also need to recognize it's okay to be really not okay for a while, right? And we say that it's okay to not be okay. Embrace that and really allow yourself to not be okay, because it's not fair. Whatever your trauma is that was not your fault, allow yourself to go ahead and get it out as long as you want. I like how he said that, because I did that. And eventually you get exhausted and tired of being angry. And you're like, okay, what now? Like what's next? And that's kind of where I got me to what now. So everything is like, what now? What now? What now? Get me out of victimized, get me out of being a survivor, and get me into what is next. And there's a cycle and a path to all these things, and you can do it. You really can. You really can. Life can be better, brighter, more beautiful, and something that is worth living every single day. You'll never arrive. You'll never be perfect. But when you can see yourself progressing every day, Stefan, I never would have met you. We never would have had this conversation. And I'm so grateful for it, right? The interactions with people, to be able to really connect instead of me just giving you a bunch of bullshit about my career and how amazing I am. I'm a human being like everybody else. I'm trying to keep it together, get it together, find it and put it together. We're all in the same boat, rowing the same time. And that's this way human nature works. I never would have understood these things before. It's a wonderful way to live and to be.
And for you to be so open to me and to my guests and to the world out there, it's so beautiful. For that, I'm very grateful, because you're shining the torch. You're holding a torch somewhere in the darkness for someone, and we need to bring that message out there. There's so many people who are suffering from addictions. 1 in 3 people in this world do suffer from chemical addiction. So that's 1 in 3. You say the 1 in 6 as far as childhood sexual abuse in boys.
For men, for men. More for women.
And exactly right. And the figures are mind-boggling. But and the figures for depression, 1 in 3 in your lifetime. So on and so on. Let's accept it. Let's stop with that stupid, bloody mask, the perfect exterior. Switch off the freaking filters on your Instagram. Switch off the let's make it all pretty and perfect. No, there's nothing pretty and perfect out there. But that perfectly imperfect, that is you.
Yes.
Is it not time for you to learn to embrace that you wants it all? It is, you are who you are. And the past was probably not pretty for you, but the past made you who you are now. That broken person, but you are, it's your choice to live in that broken victim mentality and suffer, or to actually say, okay, I've done that part of my life. Now, me too, but what now? What is now? What is the new you? Who is the new you that you want to be? How can you figure out what are the next steps? Ask yourself those questions. What is your dream? What is your vision? And how can you make that a mission? How can you turn a dream into a vision, into a mission? And then start chipping away, do little things, and you might be blown away where that ends you.
I like what you said earlier at the beginning of our conversation, Stefan, when You talked about how if we lose our identity or we don't know who we are, having suffered some kind of trauma as a child, that our lives can become like a blank canvas. And I like that, because now instead of mourning who we would have been or who we thought we were or who we didn't even get a chance to develop, we have this sense of loss of who we are and anger about it, which I did. I got to the point where I realized, hey, you know what? Especially after I talked to that barista, what do? I do nothing. And I embraced that. I thought, you know what? I have lost my job. I feel so empty now. And you use that word too, empty inside. At this point now in my life, I can choose to be whoever and whatever I want to be. Who gets that opportunity? You don't get that opportunity very often. You form that as a child and as you go through school and you get married. And at some point you realize, who am I as an adult if your life has gone quote unquote normal, boy, it's pretty hard to change your. I wouldn't want to do that. And through all my loss, and I've losing everything, if you're there with an empty bag, I get to put whatever I want into it now. And for years, I put junk in it. Well, now I'm going to put good things in it. And now I get to be whatever the hell I want to be. And I want to be an amazing person. That's what I want to be. I want to be a generous person. I want to be a person that's known for kindness and authenticity. And, I said to my therapist one day, I said, she asked me if I could do anything in life, what would it be? What would be your dream? And it used to be, of course, money, successful, and all these things. And I don't care about those things anymore. I really don't. You need money, but it's not my focus. I said, I figured out what I want. And I said, that is, when I die, on my gravestone, I wanted to say, Ed Squire, if you knew him, you knew the real person. I just want to be known for who I am. I'm just the person. When we hang up and we've finished this call, I'm the same. You call me back in 20 minutes, it's going to be the same person, right? There's no show going on. There's no performance going on. I'm in the moment. We wear different hats and we act differently accordingly and whatnot, but I am the same person inside my apartment as I am outside my apartment. And that used to be a very different story. I love being able to create whatever we want in our lives and who we want to be. So that's a gift to me in life that not everybody gets.
Amen. Guys, if you get as infused about this guy as me, then congratulations, you're in the right headspace. So Ed, if people want to get hold of you, if people want to connect with you, how can they do that?
If you can just remember the words, MeToo, what now? All in one word with no spaces, no anything. Put that in, Google that, put that in YouTube. You'll find me all over the place. That's my website, is MeTooWhatNow.com. That's a great place to start because I have some great introductory videos on there about my story and my documentary. And there's some wonderful people have said wonderful things about me and some testimonials. And there's an ebook you can download, and it's kind of my own. Yeah. It's written in my own vernacular, my own kind of, way I like to say things. And hopefully you'll find something that will help you either in written or in video content, because that's what I focus on.
Which is beautiful. So guys, what have you got to lose? Eh? And I specifically say, I always say guys, and with that I'm sort of gender neutral, but at the same token, this time I really want to say boys, men, what have you got to lose? Eh? You've been staunch for such a long time. Might it not be time that you change, that you accept that you've gone through a lot of shit and that you accept that you can't fix it right now, and that maybe it's time to stop running and just maybe choose a different way to live from now on? I only realized that when I was in rehab. You guys are one step ahead of that person that I was then, because you have been listening to this talk. You are already aware that things are not all right and you want out and you want change. what better way than to actually get in touch with the man who is asking the important question, what now? And maybe can help you on a path towards the new you, maybe the you that you want to become, not the you that you're right now. And that is a powerful, powerful place to be. You are like a spring is behind you that has been pushed back and is ready to catapult you forward. The only thing is you need a catalyst. You need someone who is pulling the trigger to release that spring. And boy, I mean, you will probably fly a bit and then you bounce a bit, and that's part of recovery, okay?
That's right.
But hey, just roll with the punches, literally, and then you see where that gets you. Ed, thank you so much for coming onto my show.
Stefan, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. No. That was a brilliant interview. I'm so grateful. And guys, already a bit of a giveaway. This is not the last time that we see Ed here on my show, because Ed, like all the people that I have got the honor to interview, is on a mission to become a better man. And that means he is transforming himself. So MeToo, WhatNow is certainly part of his story, but there are other aspects of his endeavors that I want to look forward to talk about. Kindness, little giveaway there. There will be more to come from Ed. So give me a few weeks, give Ed a few weeks, and then we have got him back. So Ed, thank you so much for coming onto my show.
Evan, thank you again. I really enjoyed it. And I want to just add, if any of the men out there that are listening to this and they look at my content, feel free to reach out anytime. I don't care if it's a DM or a phone call or a Zoom or an email or anything at all. If you feel like you just want to talk, share your story or anything, or have any questions, or Stefan as well, right? Don't be afraid to reach out. It's sometimes nice to be able to do that with somebody who's kind of third party that you're not directly connected with. And I enjoy talking to men about these issues and helping them move forward if I can in any way.
Cool. Guys, there is hope out there. There's help out there. Look after yourself. Bye.
Bye, everyone.